What's up, you guys? My name is James, and welcome to a new episode of Tough I Rent. Today is going to be a special episode. I have two of my friends here, so why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Patrick.
And I am Sean.
And they're here to list our top 5 favorite Pokemon. We're each going to take a turn, and we're pretty much giving you 3 different lists this episode. So this one's going to be a long one. So let's just get this over with. Number 5. My number 5 favorite Pokemon would have to be Electivire. He's an electric type Pokemon. And I started liking him when I don't know what game, but he goes to number 5 because he's awesome, but not as awesome as my other ones. Sean?
Oh, alright. Well, I picked my number 5 between 2 choices, but I'm kind of leaning towards one. My number 5 would have to be Alakazam or Volcarona. But I'm leaning towards more Alakazam because he was pretty much my first psychic Pokemon back in Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow as well. And I'm sorry, but that stash, just that stash and no spoons. Plus that power, my god, man. I mean, and that's my number 5.
Better?
My number 5 is Luxray. I mean, he was the first Pokemon I got in that generation that I actually caught myself, and I used him way more than I did my starting Pokemon.
Okay. There you go. Let's move along, people. Number 4. My number 4 position goes to Flygon. He was a flying dragon type?
Yeah, he was like...
So,
And I think he was from the 2nd or 3rd generation, either way. Sapphire. If I remember correctly, it's Sapphire. The reason why he's number 4 is because I used him a lot in Sapphire, and I really liked him. He was my main go-to flying Pokemon I always used. And I don't know why or where I got it, but I nicknamed him Chubby. I have no idea why. John?
Alright, for my number 4. Alright, I had a split decision between this one too. I chose between Nidoking and Aggron. Because, well, Nidoking was, of course, probably my first poison type I ever got back in Red Blue again. And Aggron, I'm not really about ground types, but there's one similarity between them that always got me whenever I caught those guys. Back in the day, whenever I played Super Godzilla for the Super Nintendo, they always reminded me of the main villain or main monster that you had to face as Godzilla, which was Bagon. He was probably the biggest, most overpowered person that I ever had to face in my childhood, and well, I kind of like both of them, how they look, and so I would say that's probably a number 4 category for me. So, all right,
Patrick?
my number 4 is Absol, just because he's badass.
Sweet. Okay. This is going to be shorter than I thought, people. Number 3. If you can't see it, there you go. Number 3. My number 3 third Pokemon would have to be Krabby. This is a water type Pokemon from the first generation. And the reason why he's number 3 is because I think he's just really hilarious and funny, even though it's just a Pokemon. But I loved it. Especially when he has that weird way of saying his name. It's like, Cookie, Cookie. And it sounded like Cookie. So when I caught my first Krabby, I always nickname him Cookie. With a K, not a C. Because I always remember that. And I just love him. And so now every time I catch a Krabby, I always nickname him Cookie.
alright. My number 3 would have to be Eevee. I'm sorry, is there even a reason to describe why anyone wouldn't like Eevee? I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone wants to catch an Eevee, at least in one of the games. Because it can turn into 7 different forms. Well, 8 if you count Sylveon being in the new game. But currently, yes, there are 7 forms. Technically, it is a normal type, but with stones or certain evolutionary categories, you can get them from either love from hanging around it, or letting it level up in an ice cave, or leveling it up in a mossy forest, or even evolving it in daylight and sun and nighttime. And one of my favorite Pokemon was actually in the Eevee category, which was Jolteon. It was one of my, I'm not going to say my first electric type, but it was one of my favorite actually. I really did like Jolteon a lot, and some of the other forms I actually like to acquire by, of course, egg hatching. I'm pretty sure everyone always goes for the egg hatching when it comes to EVs. It's all over the internet, all over the games. I'm pretty sure if you know someone who plays Pokemon, you'll at least hear a story about how they try to at least get every EV that they can and every one of its evolutions, if possible. And that's my number 3, pretty much.
Okay, Patrick?
Ditto over here. I mean, Eevee was a great Pokemon. It had so many possibilities, and you could make an entire team out of Eevee. So, I mean, my favorite evolution out of it, though, had to be Umbreon. Just because Pokemon Coliseum, it's one of the Pokemon you get to start out with.
Okay then. Okay. Number 2. My number 2 position, I have to give it to, I couldn't pick one, so I gave it to Eevee and all of his evolutions. There is not just... I love every single evolution. I can't really decide which one is my favorite, but if I had to choose one, I would have to pick Vaporeon, but I have to say it right now, all of them. So I can't wait until how the new evolution, Sylveon, is going to be in the next game. And Eevee's just a badass Pokemon. And that's why it gets my number 2 spot, unlike these other two.
Alright, well, my number 2 would have to be, well, I always liked Dragon-type Pokemon as my second category favorite type Pokemon in every single one of the Pokemons, but out of all of them, I try not to pick Legendaries as my favorite, seeing as though there's so many and everyone could actually say that each Legendary is their favorite, and I figured I'd try to go above that. So I would have to say that Haxorus is actually probably in my number 2 spot, since it goes from like this little dragon that's carrying this long toothed board or something on its mouth, and then it goes to a bigger form of it, and you think, oh, okay, it's just going to turn to maybe some sort of a bigger, fatter form of that. No, it turns to a long, slimmer, like, looks like it has blades on the sides of its mouth or something, and it's tall, and it's, I'm sorry, it's just really overpowered, especially when it comes to Drayden and Iris using. How do they do that? I swear. I guess because they're dragon gym leaders. I don't know. It's not like a Dragonite when Lance uses it. I mean, I don't know. I think everyone's been through that phase at least once. But, I don't know. I always just liked Haxorus. I mean, especially its shiny form. Oh, man, I love the black and red color on that thing. Plus, everyone likes shinies, so I'm pretty sure no complaints.
Patrick?
Number 2 for me is going to have to be Oshawott. I mean, I liked water Pokemon to begin with, and they also based him on a samurai, which I love Japanese culture. So, Oshawott's going to have to be my number 2. I mean, yeah.
Great. Okay, now time to finish this off. Number 1. My number 1 spot has to go to Zubat. Sorry, I can't say it with a straight face. No, it's Cyndaquil. It's a tie between Cyndaquil and Typhlosion. The reason why is because Cyndaquil is just freaking cute, and it was the very first Pokemon I actually got to choose, because I started playing Yellow, but you never can't choose your Pokemon. But when I got Gold, I was able to choose my first Pokemon finally, and I chose Cyndaquil. And another reason why is because of Typhlosion, because he just looks awesome, and plus, he's one of the very first Pokemon I got to level 100, and that took for freaking ever. And I felt so much accomplishment of doing that. And that is why he is my number 1 spot. Sean?
Alright. My number 1 would have to be another split decision that I've had. I know, they're getting a little bit ridiculous, but well, who's perfect, honestly? Alright, but my number 1 spot would go between Feraligatr and Samurott. Well, I guess I'll explain Samurott first. Well, like Patrick said, of course the otter itself is based on the Japanese samurai culture. I always thought that to be cool. I didn't really expect that to happen, since you expect it with a little otter with a seashell, scallop shell, whatever you want to call it. And you just see it like, oh, it's adorable. Yeah, and then it goes to a little bit of a taller one, blue skin, like, oh, okay, it gets 2 shells. All right. Maybe it'll go to like a huge otter or something. No, it turns into like something, what is it? I don't know. It's some sort of a sea creature,
Walrus.
not even a walrus. It gets epic.
Dinosaur.
Yeah, like a
It's like
dinosaur,
walrus.
water dinosaur looking thing, and it gets epic facial hair and even seashell blades. I mean, I thought that was just so cool when I saw that. I mean, you just see an otter and then you see this giant blue water Pokemon. Of course, water being my favorite anyway. I mean, not being biased, but yeah, I do love that. But of course, my number one, definitely, true to my heart, would definitely go to Feraligatr. I mean, he was probably, I didn't have way too many favorite water Pokemon, but I mean, when I saw him, I mean, I saw a little crocodile-looking thing, Totodile, then a fatter version, Croconaw, and I'm like, kind of skeptical about that one. But then when I saw Feraligatr, first thing I thought to my head, that thing looks so much like Godzilla. I loved Godzilla back in my childhood. Heck, I actually still like him now, but still, when I saw him, the red spikes on his back, and the fact that he has like a gaping jaw like Godzilla used to have, stands on 2 fours, like little arms, but yet looks still handy, and the fact that he can even shoot stuff out of his mouth like Godzilla can if he got like Hyper Beam or anything. And plus, he was the first Pokemon I ever got to level 100. Of course, long process, but you connect with your Pokemon like that, and I think you grow a very close connection to your Pokemon when you do that. I think everyone goes through a phase like that where they do something like that, and to me, Feraligatr, I mean, he's got to be my number one. I know he's not exactly the greatest water Pokemon, but I mean, that's just more personal than anything to me.
Okay. Patrick finishes off.
First of all, that's 6 Pokemon, Sean.
That's fine. Oh, well.
It's fine. It's tied. Finish
okay.
it off.
Okay, well, I don't think it matters.
Anyway,
Patrick.
my number one would have to be Sandshrew, because in the original Pokemon TV show, there was an episode where Ash was battling a trainer whose only Pokemon was Sandshrew. And of course, you know, like always, Team Rocket attacks, and that Sandshrew never gives up, even near death. That thing keeps going. And I don't know, I just always remember that episode from when I was a kid, so that has to be my number one Pokemon.
Okay. Well, there you have it. There's our top 5 favorite Pokemon. Next week is going to be back to normal, and probably in the near future you'll see these 2 guys again.
Or
And
will you?
Or will you? Or there might be some new people, it depends. Like the video, share it, subscribe to my channel, leave in the comments what's your favorite top 5 Pokemon. And there's Patrick behind me, and and I'll see you next Saturday. See ya.